At the center is the failure to address the high cost of basic commodities like sugar, which gone up by 61.4%, beans by 27.9%, maize flour by 9.6%, and cooking oil by 18.5%. The government has also failed to caution Kenyans from the cost of fuel after doing away with the fuel subsidy. Furthermore, President William Ruto is yet to establish a quasi-judicial public inquiry on state capture, complete transfer of all devolved units to the counties, and realize the 2/3 gender rule within 12 months despite signing a women charter. The government is also yet to roll out the universal health coverage, which includes funding of chronic illnesses. The state has, however, drafted 4 bills that seek to anchor healthcare. Mixed opinions continue to greet Kenya Kwanza regime over Ruto's performance 1 year later, following a competitive contest that saw him beat Azimio's Raila Odinga for the top job.
Tumpongeze kwa makofi anapopokezwa katiba ya Jamhuri ya Kenya. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais.
Victor Enzobeli for Prime Edition, Nairobi.
Now, elsewhere, Azimio leader Raila Odinga is scheduled to make a significant announcement regarding the ongoing bipartisan dialogue on Thursday morning. There are claims that President William Ruto's camp is obstructing the talks. During Tuesday's closed-door meeting, the team was also concerned with some Kenya Kwanza bigwigs who have been attacking the dialogue team and rubbishing some of the agendas. The meeting follows Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's demand that the audit of the 2022 presidential election results be removed from the committee's agenda. Geoffrey Wanyoike reports.
The Azimio leader Raila Odinga held a meeting with the opposition's team of the National Dialogue Committee, which lasted over 4 hours. The slow pace of the talks was a concern, and the meeting was attended by top coalition officials, including NARC Kenya's Martha Karua, former Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, and former Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, among others. The 5-member negotiations team led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and the 4 members of the technical team led by Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni were also present. The meeting also discussed Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's statements. The Deputy President, who has consistently dismissed the talks. The coalition has also planned another meeting on Friday, but it is unclear what the agenda will be. Reporting for EBN News, my name is Geoffrey Wanyoike.
Now, petitioners in the Finance Act 2023 have urged Justice David Majanja, Lawrence Mugambi, and Christine Meoli to declare the Finance Act 2023 unconstitutional, null, and void. Through their counsels, Otiende Amolo Okongo Mogeni, Daniel Manzo, and Busia Senator Kio Mtata, the petitioners argue that the introduction of the housing levy that is in the Finance Act does not exist in law, as it purports to give powers to the Kenya Revenue Authority to collect deductions, which is unconstitutional. The petitioners also noted that 22 new provisions out of 84 were introduced in the House without public participation.
My Lord, the substratum of the petition and the submissions filed is that the Finance Act challenged here has various procedural and substantive instances of unconstitutionality. And cited instances of infractions of fundamental rights. My Lord, we will only highlight about 5 quickly because we submitted on most of them. Number 1, starting with the housing levy captured in Section 84 of the Act. It is our submission that this section purports to amend the Constitution. It purports to amend Schedule 4, Part 1, Part 2, Clause 8B, which exclusively gives the jurisdiction of housing to counties. The only leeway left for national government under Part 1, Clause 20 is housing policy. In purporting to create a levy and giving jurisdiction to the Cabinet Secretary to administer it, the Act is purporting to amend the Constitution, which cannot be allowed, and it's unconstitutional to that extent.
The failure to involve the Senate in the consideration of the budget estimates and the Appropriation Act violated Article 249 Clause 3, and that voided the entire budget making process, not just the finance bill. The estimates, the Appropriation Act, and anything that was done under the budget process in the 2023-2024 budget cycle.
Now, as the country expects to experience El Nino rains in the month of October, Kirinyaga County residents and leaders have called on the government to put in place necessary measures that will help reduce the effects of the heavy rains. The residents have expressed fear of landslides, floods, losing their properties and life, which is associated with the heavy rains.
To the County Department of Environment, Water, and Natural Resources. Proceed. Could the CC member inform the County Assembly through the respective department or committee mitigation measures of the department is planning to undertake, including stormwater management in Mwea, against adverse effects of the El Nino phenomenon on its impact on rainfall in the country's climate during the October to December season, as included in the update by the Kenya Meteorological Department. Mr. Speaker, I raise to ask an ordinary question number 11 of 2023 to the County Department of Agriculture, Livestock, Veterinary and Fishery. Proceed. Thank you. Question 1. Could the CC member inform the County Assembly through the respective department committee on the detailed update of the department readiness to tackle any negative effects of El Nino as one by the Kenya Meteorological Department? Question 2. Could the CC member inform the County Assembly on the plans put in place by the department to support farmers in mitigating the negative effect of El Nino?
Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki has issued a stern warning to Lamu County leaders to stop politicizing the country's security status. Speaking during the launch of the Lamu East County Commissioner's Office, the Interior CS has assured residents that the national government will deploy more security personnel to put to sleep the numerous attacks in the region. His visit comes barely 2 days after Al-Shabaab militias attacked and killed police officers using landmines.
Wananchi wengi hapa ni wapenda amani na mnaendelea kuwa watu wa kutii sheria. Hata kama kuna visa vya utovu wa usalama, ni kawaida katika kila jamii. Lazima kati ya watu 100 hapakosi mtu mmoja ambaye anafanya makosa. Sio hapa Lamu peke yake, sio Kenya pekee, hata nchi zingine. Hapa kosangi mtu mmoja wawili ambao anafanya uhalifu. Kwa hivyo mimi nawashukuru wananchi mlio wengi kwa kuwa watu wa kutii sheria na watu wa kufanya mambo kwa mujibu ya sheria ya nchi yetu. Sema na wauliza vile vile hapa Lamu kuna jamii siasa nyingi hatuingilii ambao zinaishi hapa kuvurugana kisiasa, na mmeishi kwa amani kwa miaka mingi kama vile viongozi wenu wamesema hapa, wale wameongea. Mimi nawashukuru na nawaomba muendelee na mshikamano na udugu na kuishi kwa amani, mkijua ya kwamba wale watu wote ambao wako hapa Lamu na ni wenyeji wa hapa na wanaishi hapa, wanafanya kazi hapa, wanafanya biashara hapa, hao ndio ndugu zenu na hamna ndugu wengine. You are one people, one community. Haijalishi mtu anaongea lugha gani, haijalishi mtu ako dini gani, kwa sababu hayo ni mambo ya Mwenyezi Mungu. So I just want to encourage you to continue living in unity.
All right, so let's take a look at what is making headlines on the newspapers and who is making headlines as well as why. So new taxes have been proposed. That is on the Daily Nation. More pain of taxation as Treasury proposes new higher taxes. In numbers, we're looking at 18% proposed new VAT if Kenya adopts the East African countries' rate. We're also looking at about 650 billion shillings additional amount the Treasury is seeking to net annually in new tax plans in 3 years. 30% for landlords to pay tax rental income at corporate tax rate after 27 billion shillings revenue target missed last year. 5% the tax farmers who supply milk, eggs and other produce to cooperatives will pay on value of produce. So, you know the famous song on Kiatu? Well, that shoe right there basically is a symbol of just, you know, whoever knows the pain of life is whoever who wears the shoe best. So the taxpayers bear the brunt by wearing those particular shoes which are torn and will get more torn if these new taxes are proposed. So brace yourself for tough times as President William Ruto's administration plans yet another round of additional taxes targeting farmers, landlords, car owners, small traders, and even schools with swimming pools. The new proposals also seek changes to value-added tax, which may go up, and a review of excise duty on fuel products, which will send ripples across the economy, hitting hard millions of Kenyans struggling under the high cost of living. So there's a plan to review the value-added tax for various produces, as well as the excise duty of fuel. And if you know, excise duty of fuel is reviewed. Fuel is basically like a backbone of a lot of services and products across the country. So it has that ripple effect. You use a matatu to go to work, you use fuel. You know, the food that you eat has to be transferred perhaps from Makueni or from Bungoma. Fuel is needed. So it has got that ripple effect on various produces and services that are offered across the country. So this means more pain if this new proposal to review VAT and excise duty on petroleum products so as to put it on an average of the East African countries rate, which is at 18%. So at the moment it is at 16%. So we're talking about 2% more. Now, in the Treasury's medium-term revenue strategy of 2023 to 2024, as well as 2026-2027, some of the proposals that are expected to have a huge impact on businesses and consumers include a review of the VAT rate to bring it in line with the other East African community states, and a review of the excise duty on fuel products. Kenya's current VAT is at 16%, while other EAC states charge 18%. Now, the Treasury in the document proposes a review of that particular VAT rate without specifying whether the review will be upward or downwards, but also notes that other elements related to VAT, such as VAT exemptions and zero ratings, will be reviewed to remove some products from the list. So what we are looking at is basically there will be a tax imposed on car importation. So if you're a car owner, or you plan to be a car owner at least, and you plan on importing a car, there are taxes that you'll have to pay more. There's also a tax on landlords, basically paying 30% of the tax rental income at corporate tax rate after the 27 billion shillings revenue target was missed last year. Now, for farmers, 5% tax to supply milk, eggs, and other produce to cooperatives, and that will be on value of produce. So 5% on value of produce if you're a farmer of milk, of eggs. Large-scale farmer, more will be affected, as well as other farm producers. Well, there will be that 5% more that has been affected to ensure that you will pay more. This comes as well on the backdrop of if you've had that report from Enzobeli, where sugar prices are still going up high, not coming down. Talk about cooking oil prices as well. If you could also put maize flour there, also add the prices of beans. So more pain, brace yourselves for more pain. You'll have to dig deeper into your pocket. That is what is illustrated by the page, or the top of the page of the Daily Nation. More pain as Treasury proposes new higher taxes. Also, fuel shortage looms as dealers cry fall over stabilization deal or debt. Fuel shortage looms as dealers cry fall over stabilization debt. That is a story that is on page 8, where independent oil dealers have warned of shortages at their pumps next week due to the 1.8 billion debt they have accumulated due to the government's price stabilization program. Because of the debt, the large oil marketing companies are reluctant to sell it to independent dealers at subsidized prices. So fuel shortage looms, and this will not be the first time, if this happens, that we are having a fuel shortage in the country. Sometime in 2022, we had serious fuel shortage where there were long queues of motorbikes or motorcycles. I talk about personal cars, talk about public service vehicles at petrol stations, and there was literally scrambling of fuel. And that is likely to be the situation if the government does not settle this debt that is owed to the oil marketing companies at 1.8 billion shillings. And they say they want the energy regulator to reintroduce caps on wholesale prices to cushion them as well from the international market prices. Now, independent oil dealers have warned of shortages at their pumps next week due to that particular debt. And under the United Energy and Petroleum Association, the dealers warned that if the stabilization program is not reviewed, they risk closing their 800 retail outlets across the country. Also, police to hold 2 women over hairdresser's death. 2 women arrested in connection with the murder of Jane Mwende, a hairdresser based in Mlolongo Township in Machakos County, will remain in police custody for 10 more days. The story that shocked the country: a hairdresser goes missing, found dead. His alleged killers, who led police to where the body was, an alleged love triangle as well. And so 2 women who were arrested in connection with that will continue to remain in police custody for 10 more days. This is after police were yesterday allowed to hold them longer to complete investigations into the murder. As well, state opposes lower interest rate, extended grace period for HELB loans. So the government is opposed to amendments to the Higher Education Loans Board Act that seek to reduce the interest rate charged on student loans and also extend the grace period before the loans mature. Appearing before the National Assembly's Education Committee, the PS for Higher Education and Research, Beatrice Inyangala, said such changes would affect HELB's loan collection and threaten its sustainability. Now, also, something similar to what is happening on the Star this morning: cost of goods to go up, state plans to raise VAT. Something to similar in conjunction to the high cost of living. Cost of goods to go up, state plans to raise VAT. Now, Treasury has proposed a 2% increase in VAT introduction of 6 education taxes. The government has proposed a 2% increase in VAT and the introduction of 6 education taxes. So that is a story that is on page 6 of the Star. Talks about the more taxes that will, be upon Kenyans. So it says brace for harder times ahead as Ruto regime considers raising VAT to 18%. Now, the cost of basic commodities to rise by 2%, piling more pressure on the already struggling citizens. So the National Treasury is proposing to hike the VAT to 18% from the current 16% in a bid to harmonize it with other East African peers. The question should be, though, do we need to harmonize the VAT to 18%, the VAT on fuel to 18% to harmonize it with the East African countries, states? What is the necessity behind it? So perhaps those are some of the key questions that we should be asking. So the other 5 members of the trading bloc within East Africa include Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda, and they are currently charging VAT at 18%. So that proposal to raise the VAT regime in Kenya comes amid concerns by regional peers who insist that Kenya's reluctance to update its tax could distort the EAC common market. So there's that pressure as well on the government to take it up as it plans to introduce 6 new taxes. Also, top of the page, ODM rebels defy Raila again, meet Ruto at State House. Talk about Uriri MP, Mark Nyamita, Caroli Omondi of Suba South, as well as Gideon Ochanda of Bondo, Felix Odiwar of Langata, Elisha Odhiambo of Gem, and Kisumu Senator Tom Ojienda, as well as Rongo MP Paul Abur. Well, in their suits at State House, just a day after they were given that temporary relief by the political parties dispute tribunal over the expulsion. So supremacy wars, isn't it, as they defy Raila again to meet President William Ruto at State House. Also on the newspapers, Ruto wants radical UDA changes, plans grassroots party polls countrywide. Ruto's big plan for radical UDA changes, plans grassroots polls. At the moment, who are the party leaders? Within the leadership of the party leader is President William Ruto, deputy party leader is Rigathi Gachagua, the chairperson is Governor Cecily Mbarire, the vice chairperson is Member of Parliament Hassan Omar, Iyala MP Hassan Omar, Secretary General is Cleophas Malala, while the organizing secretary is Vincent Musyoka. So grassroots polls seek to revive the party. Law change battle, the LGBTQ plus community relief as Supreme Court is accused of going against the will of God and the will of Kenyans. Right to life, opponents of the death penalty now want life imprisonment scrapped. Then finally, to the Standard, MPs dare Raila with fresh visit to State House. President Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga has renewed their political rivalry ahead of the state-hosted renegade ODM MPs for lunch. On a day, the opposition accused the National Assembly Speaker of bias for defending the rebels. According to an insider, the MPs told the president they had resolved to work with him come what may and vote to stay put, noting that their political future was bigger than the current tribulations in ODM. So new rivalry renewed between the ODM leader Raila Odinga and President William Ruto ahead of Azimio's presser that we're expecting this morning. Raila Odinga will be addressing to give the way forward. Apparently, according to insiders, there could be more demands that are put on the table, or subsequently there could be some few of the changes that are made. Top of the page as well, Azimio's onslaught against the Finance Act. Opposition leader Raila Odinga leads a team of lawyers, civil society, and activists to reject the Finance Act 2023 and pleads with judges not to be intimidated as the government responds. So that is a story that is on page 3. Raila in the petitioner's case, what do they want? One, the Housing Levy Contravenes Employments Act, which sets the amount to be deducted from employees. Also, one of other grounds of Azimio is that the insurance compensation cannot be taxed. What we're looking at is if you're hit by a motorcycle and you've insured yourself, instead of that company paying you 100,000 Kenyan shillings, that is taxed and you receive a lower amount. So, according to Raila and the petitioner's team, they say the insurance competition cannot be taxed. The Finance Act was passed without involving the Senate. They also say there was no public participation and views presented to the National Assembly, and that Parliament sneaked in 22 new provisions not originally drafted. Now, according to the government, this is a political context that should not be determined by the courts. The government also says the bill was subjected to public participation and all views taken into account. The government also argues the two speakers were in concurrence and that the bill did not concern the counties, and that the government has a legitimate mandate to impose taxes and implement its projects, as well as citizens' rights are not absolute. They can be curtailed through appropriate action. Now, top of the page as well, how El Nino storm threatens already bruised economy. It's a question of have the counties prepared themselves for these particular rains, which the weatherman had predicted will begin sometime in September or October, all the way to January 2024. More tax pain as Treasury plans for 2024. Mystery of varsity student who died in hostel, as well as world champions lineup for Riyadh road races. So those are the headlines on the newspapers. The Standard talks about MPs dare Raila with fresh visit to State House. The Star talks about the cost of goods to go up as state plans to raise VAT, as well as the Daily Nation that talks about more pain. Treasury proposes new higher taxes. So your feedback is highly welcome. Tell us what you think about these new proposals, as well as the headlines that have been put up on the papers. But those are what is making headlines across the dailies. All right, so allow us to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere just yet. When we come back in a couple of minutes, we'll be getting into the conversation of the day, effects of divorce or separation on children. They are the most vulnerable in this situation. So how do we safeguard their interest? How do we ensure that their character stays intact? And also, how do we protect them from the society? You know how it can get messy sometimes. So how do we just ensure that their needs are well safeguarded and that we're protecting them from the harm that comes or the effects that come with divorce or separation? My guest is already around, a professional counselor, Elestuta McKenna. She will be joining me in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Send us your feedback. Our SMS line is 23993. Also watch us on Facebook and on YouTube on EBN TV. We'll be back in just a bit.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
In a fast-paced world filled with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters, your relationship with God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we take you on a transformative journey of building your faith, without which it's impossible to please God. A journey of introspection and discovery of who you are in Christ Jesus.
For you to walk with God, You should not crumble when you come under pressure. Kama umeokoka, sema umeokoka mpaka mbele ya president, mpaka mbele ya chief justice, mpaka mbele ya kila mtu. Hiyo ndio kuokoka ya ukweli. Kuokoka ya ukweli.
Enjoy a faith-filled environment of worship and ministry of the word every Tuesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. with Reverend Felix Kevoy, exclusively on EBN TV.
That is the word of the Lord today.
Through the morning rush and the buzz, find the voice you can trust, a voice of reason, a voice of direction, and a voice of hope.
Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Live. I'm Cynthia Nanjala.
And I'm Sammy Adika. Rise and shine, folks. We hope you are ready for an energizing start to your day.
Absolutely. We are here to bring you the latest headlines and trending news stories from the world of politics,
Business and finance, health and lifestyle,
agriculture and sports.
So grab your coffee, sit back and get ready for a fantastic morning of engaging discussions and news segments.
Join us through our social media handles, #The Morning Live. This is Morning Live, exclusively on EBN TV.
Hello, praise the Lord. My name is Pastor Joseph Musajawaza of Unfailing Love Ministries. I'm inviting you every Wednesday to join us on our program, Victory Through the Word. In this program, we teach you God's Word. We teach you to find solutions and answers to the struggles of life through the Word of God. Everything you ever go through in life, every pain, every tear, every worry, and every questions that you may ever have in this life. You may not get answers out there, but in God's word, there are answers and there is a solution. The Bible says that God has exalted his word above his name. In his word, there is hope. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but his word will always remain abide. I encourage you, engage with us as we study together, as you ask your questions and let your questions be answered as you are built and as you hear God's word. Our church is located in Umoja, Inako, near Olobon Hotel, just off Sango Stage along Moi Drive, and the court is known as Church Court. Give us a visit and your life will not remain the same. God bless you. Let's meet every Wednesday from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. only on EBN television.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world. You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
All right, good morning and welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You are watching Morning Live, about 45 minutes past the hour mark, and we are just about to get into the conversation of the day that I had touched on a bit before the break. Effects of divorce on children or separation. We'll talk about marriage, we'll talk about how we parent, but also there comes a time when the relationship or the marriage is not working and eventually the partners have to separate. So that is what we are calling the separation, or if you're legally married, then the divorce comes in. So what happens then? You have children, what happens next? What do we do to safeguard their interests, their needs, to also ensure that as much as we are away from each other, we can still co-parent in an appropriate way to raise these children up in the right manner. So that is the conversation of the day. Your feedback is highly welcome to talk to us on our Facebook page on EBN TV, as well as our SMS line is open 23993. If you've got any questions, comments, thoughts perhaps concerning this is just the moment to do it. So let me introduce my guest quickly, who has already joined me on set. I'm joined by a professional counselor as well as a psychologist and a trainer, Elestuta McKenna. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you for having me today.
Yes.
I'm happy, and I'm happy this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for the program.
Yes.
Yes.
So how about we just get started? Now, divorce is such a complex or a sensitive, issue to have a conversation on, because, the emotions involved. We're also talking about a relationship between two people. But now there's a third party involved, and this is the little girl or the little boy, or they could not be so little anymore, even for adults, because there's still children to those particular parents.
Yes.
So why is it important that even before we make this decision of separation or divorce, that we consider our children?
Thank you. Divorce is always the last thing to do. Separation is always the last thing to do in a relationship, and especially in marriage, because children really don't know any other thing. They only know love.
Yeah.
And so when we start separating, the child or the children will wonder, why are we not loving each other anymore? So they may not understand these other things that are happening. They only understand love, and they will start feeling like they are the main cause why you are separating. Because mostly when people start fighting, there's a way they include children in the picture.
Yeah.
They'll complain maybe you're not paying school fees for the child. They'll say that we've been always kicked out with children. They'll say that my child was sick, I took the child to the hospital, you are not there. So there's a way a child is mentioned in the conflict. And so when divorce or separation starts, there's a way that the child will feel that I might be a cause, and I'm the main reason why my parents are separating. And so when we start this process, it is very important to think about the child first. Yes.
So, we are looking at various ages for the children at this particular point. We could still be, adults, but my parents are going through divorce or separation. I'm still affected.
Yes.
I could be a teenager. My parents are going through a divorce. Or I could even just be a young kid in the grades of grade 2, 3, but my parents are going through separation. So in terms of considering, does it also have that, consideration of the age factor? Because parents to elder children might tend to think they're adults. They will understand this. They will get this. So is it an age factor also to consider?
Divorce affects every age. There's no certain age that is fairer or better than the other. When 0 to 3, those are the youngest children in divorce. When divorce starts with this age, is that the children will wonder, where is my daddy or where is my mother? Because these people are not together. And you notice some characters in these children. When we talk of the kindergarten children, still, they wonder, why are we not with our parents the way we used to have? When it's teenage, this is a very critical stage of a child, And this is when children have started, that is when a girl or a boy has started identity crisis.
Yeah.
They want to be associated. They want to be associated with their father, with their parents. And so they are also affected. Talk about the youth. These are people that have started working out to start earning and come back home to the parent and tell them how the field has been.
Yeah.
So they are also affected by this thing. Talk about the young adults, those who have started families. They want to share with their parents together how it has been, the challenges, how they are. Talk about even the senior citizens whose parents, because some parents will even start divorcing after retirement. Even those ones, they want to take care of their parents when they're together. So there's no stage that doesn't affect when it comes to divorce. Divorce affects every stage of life. Yes.
Now, so as parents or as couples, and we have tried all other means and it's not working, so the ultimate or the last decision, as you've said, that should be the last option. And we're saying now we need to go our separate ways. And we have children. So as parents, now where do we start in terms of trying to protect our young ones or trying to safeguard the feelings of our children? So where should we start? Do we start and immediately go to a counselor, or do we just talk to our children directly and tell them, you know, this is happening? So where should we start?
First, before you even think of separating or any other thing, it is always going to involve a third party. Those are the mediators, the arbitrators, and they can be people that are trusted in the family. And those are the people that you go to. Sometimes divorce happens or it's caused by very small things, that it's just a misunderstanding, that when people sit together, they can come out with a solution. So it is always good, even before you rush to courts, start talking about it with people that are reasonable, people that can understand, and people that will understand this journey, what you're going through in this institution. That is one. Then second thing, if you separate, mostly what starts first is separation. You see people go their own way. It is always advisable not to rush to court. Just wait first and cool down, so that you can also think about yourself, so that you can think about the people that are within this institution. People have always felt that divorce affects the children. They forget it also affects the couples. That is the husband, that is the wife. Also, divorce affects the people that are concerned. It will affect your brothers and sisters, it will affect your parents, it will affect the institutions that you've been, it will affect a wide range of people. So divorce does not just shake the institution of marriage itself, it also shakes the surroundings. Yes.
All right, so now the kids, if you look at a 3-year-old child, as you've said, you know, that's the youngest, 0 to 3 years, you'll tend to think, oh, they're still young, you know, perhaps they're not talking well yet, or they aren't walking yet. So, you know, handling this one is a bit different, isn't it? Because this is a child who still can't grasp the common things in life. So isn't it easier if, you know, it's a separation at that age?
It is very hard. It is very hard. You see, when two people come together, they come together because there is love. There's a feeling of union. There's compassionate, you know, there's appreciation, there's care, there's validation of each other. And so when the child comes in the picture, the love still continues. The father will play the fatherly role. He will be the security of this child. He will be the to-go person. He will be this person that handles things that seem complex for this child. The mother still will play her motherly role. She will be there as compassionate mother, somebody who hugs the child, somebody who soothes the child. She will be this soft landing of the child. So when one unit is out, then what the other one has been doing, the other one can't do. For example, if a mother is not there, then the cuddling and everything will be given by the father, but it's a different version. So every person has a role that they play in marriage. And even if there's no other thing the person brings in this marriage, security alone of the child is enough. The child feels that I'm okay with my daddy, or the child feels that the food has been well done by my mommy. But when one of these moves, then there's a problem. So for 0 to 3, it is that feeling that is there. Yes.
What about, you know, as the age goes?
Okay, now from there we talk of 4 to 12.
Yeah.
Those are still childhood. Those are still children. And at this time, there's a lot of learning. So the mother here poses as a great teacher. She's there teaching the children what should be done, what shouldn't be done, how to clothe, chores, and everything. The father here continues with the role as a security giver, as this firm foundation that the child can stand on. The child still feels that I am secure with my father. Wherever he is, he's coming back to me. The father answers very complex questions, and that is the belief of the child. No, the mother can't, but the child has already grouped them according to how they meet the needs. So when still this branch is gone, so the child is left with questions or feels insecure, even if the mother is offering security. This part is still missing. Go to the teenage. This is the age of discovery. This girl or this boy, he's discovering the world. Whatever the lessons have been taught at home, this teenager wants to go with them outside and sometimes try and sometimes see them. And there are times that they will feel like they want to try alone. But you see the presence of the father is here to say, this one can't be done. And if they insist, the father says, it can't be done this way. There is this affirmation of the father. And the mother is there to receive the news. Talk of puberty stage. When menses starts and everything else sets in, the girl runs to the mother. What's happening? Even the boy will run to the mother. What's happening? But the father is there telling the boy, see how you're growing. See how everything is going on. So I'm saying that every stage, every parent has a role that they play in these children. So separating them means that the role might be played by maybe other people or by one parent, which is different, and it's a different feeling. Yes.
All right, so now let's talk about the effects themselves. And you're in a better position to speak about this because you're a professional counselor, you're also a psychologist. So the psychological effects that come with divorce on children, that even the parents themselves can be able to pick out and say, oh, this separation is causing tremendous effect on our child this way. Perhaps their behavior has changed, or they're acting a certain way. So what are some of these pointers that could indicate that this separation or this divorce has tremendously affected this child?
As children grow and as growth continues, remember, there are other forces, the outer or the external forces that affect children's growth. So that is why a home, which is a haven, needs to be the most supportive ground for the children. For example, you notice that as children grow to teenagers, they are mentally affected or psychologically affected by the body changes that happens. They are not very sure whether the other child is going through what I'm going through. So they really don't know who to ask. But when the parents are there, they are able to answer these questions. So every stage that this child goes through, it is always a bonus when parents are together. But again, as we continue with the parenting, with everything else we do, we should also understand that the emotions of children, it is always attached also to themselves, because sometimes they may not understand why they are emotionally affected. Maybe it's because of anxiety or call it fear, that they fear the environment, that they need just an assurance. Also talk about the behavioral effects. As I'm saying, the external forces, they have some things that they teach our children. So you notice that sometimes they come with a certain behavior at home, and so you are there to rectify as a parent. And sometimes when marriage is very stable, there's a lot of discussion, because there's a lot of communication and everything. So communication also is part of the effects that affect relationships and affects children when they are going through divorce. And so it is a range of things. For example, if you are talking of 0 to 3, you notice that they are very irritable. They are crying very fast. And not because of the divorce itself, it is because of the absence they feel. They feel they can't see someone. So emotionally they keep on crying. crying all the time. After a little provocation, they keep on crying. You notice also there is also poor sleep. They can't sleep for long. They just sleep a little bit, then they wake up. Then also the feeding. You see that sometimes when you feed them, because of the pressure that they are going through, and they are still, you may think that 0 to 3 is not affected. You notice that they don't want to eat, or if they eat, they vomit. So there's a lot of stress going on. And also they get sick because of the immune factor. If they're not eating, they're not enjoying life, stress affects the immunity of people. And so even children 0 to 3, they're still affected by this. So it has a lot of effect. Talk of the teenagers. The teenager, you notice that some will even go to substance use excess, because you see they want to soothe the pain of what is happening in the family. So they go to substance use. Some will even engage in sexual behavior, which is too early. That is how we end up sometimes having teenage pregnancies. You know, it is just caused by all these conflicts and separations in the family. Poor performance in schools. The child has been doing very well, but suddenly you see them start dropping. And then lack of self-care, negligence. They no longer groom, they're not interested in anything, and if you tell them to choose something to wear, you notice that they choose things that you just wonder, what is this combination? And then isolation.
Yes.
They don't want to go where people are, because they don't want to be asked questions. How is your mother? How is your dad? The dad that is not there, or the mother that ran away. So there is isolation because they feel abandoned. There are many things that affect children when parents separate. Yes.
Now, there's now the parent-child relationship, you know. I was so close to my daughter as a father or as a mother, but then, you know, this separation is almost unavoidable. So, you know, how does it affect the relationship I will have or I do have with my child? Are they likely to, you know, say I'm the bad person here? Or are they likely to say, no, mommy is the bad person here? So how much does it affect also the parent-child relationship, you know?
Okay, thank you. Now, when conflicts start arising, the first thing you need to do is take care of the child or the children in the house. Separate between the fight between you two and the children. That is why you need to when you have argument with your spouse, say what has happened. For example, you did this to me, or I'm sorry I did this to you. It is not the child. It is you two who have issues. However, if it has to go to the point of separation, assure your children that me and your daddy, or me and your mommy, we are no longer friends, and we can't continue living together because we no longer feel like great friends. That is why I need to go my way and your father has to go his way. Okay? But assure the child, but we still love you. I love you as my daughter or my son. I love you for who you are. Always when you're going through divorce, do not bring the picture of the one parent as a bad parent. Because children do not see their parents that way. If you try telling a child that your father is bad, they will ask you one question, how? And if you tell them he did this to me, the child is likely to tell you that he did do that to me. So make sure that you separate. Do not use your children as shields. Allow them to see things themselves because they can see. And remember, these children are not stones. They are growing. So one day they'll be able to see this one, no wonder, this one, no. But let them see through their own eyes. Your part is just to assure them that I have no issue with you, with your father, or I have no issue between you and your mother. He's still your father, she's still your mother, but for me and him, we are not able to continue. If possible, make separation as friendly as possible. Yes.
Yeah. And in scenarios, you know, where the divorce or the separation is messy,
yes.
You know, I can imagine there's so much noise, violence perhaps also involved,
yes.
Verbal violence, physical violence. You know, this one seems a bit different because the child is able to see what is happening, is aware of just how harsh these environmental conditions are getting.
Yes.
So how do you handle that for the child now?
Okay, now, allow me to say this, Cynthia,
Yeah.
that sometimes divorce is not very bad to some situations. There are some situations that it will be better if people separate. Where there is abuse, and we're talking of both physical, psychological, emotional, behavior, this abuse that is of the highest order, that part, when parents separate, the children feel happy. They feel happy because the mother is no longer beaten.
Yeah.
They feel happy because the father is no longer emotionally abused. You see some divorce cases whereby the children say that I don't want to go with my mother. I want to stay with my daddy.
Yeah.
So here children are making choice of the preference or the preferred parents that they want to stay with. Why? Because for them they felt that this issue, I am better with these parents.
Yeah.
So in some situations, it is better to separate so that people can heal themselves. Remember, sometimes when people are stepping into marriage, they have their own traumas that they carry in marriage. Maybe they faced separation, so they fear it happening again, but they don't know how to project this. So here there is an issue. So parents must separate. So here, children also, they will say that it's okay. Instead of losing my mother,
Better they separate.
they better separate. So there are some situations where children themselves feel it is the best thing to do. However, if they don't see that, make them understand. Yes.
All right. Now, I'm very much interested with the adult children now, perhaps from the age, we could put it at 20
Yes.
Onwards. And now they're alive to all of this. They're perhaps independent. They have got their own families, but then their parents are separating. And they have grown with these parents. They have seen them over the years. Perhaps even they're role models in their marriages. But then eventually they see their parents separating. How is it different for an adult?
For an adult, it's different because here, this is an adult who can sit down and analyze things. These are people that are able to tell them, you people, if you're not coping, it's okay for you to live in separate ways. But again, remember, this is Africa. And we are in Africa, whereby people feel separation or divorce, it's the worst thing to do in institutions. And so this still, though they are adults at 20, they still feel ashamed. They carry the shame. This time, they'll not be so guilty, but they'll be feeling, where do we go back to when things don't work? So they develop fear and anxiety. They may be adults, but remember, they are also human beings who belong to an institution called a home. So when things are collapsing, they are also part of the corruption of things that are just falling down. When the family unit is falling down, they are also affected directly. There will be a time that maybe they need to celebrate their birthdays at home. You realize that they don't want to take their birthdays at home because now how do they take their birthday to? Maybe one parent, or some maybe it's marriage. They are wondering, how do we take our spouses or our partners, our fiancés home? And they feel affected. Even if the two parents who are separated, they can come together for the sake of this union. But again, deep down, they know the truth, that there's nothing here. And also, don't forget, they will wonder, how about me in this marriage? So some you realize that they may refuse to settle down because it scares them. It scares them to know that I don't have a unit that I can hold on. So families are anchors. Homes, it is our anchor, where we go when nothing else works, where we go when we are highly celebrated in the world. We go home with our celebrations. We carry our trophies home. So when we carry our trophies to an empty home, it becomes a stress. Yes.
Wow. And I just love, what you've said. It's like an anchor,
Yes.
It basically holds us together.
Yes.
And it can be so deep, and decisions have to be made eventually.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the effects of separation on children, there are those that are short-term. You know, it's something that is just for a while, and then the child will go back to perhaps normal state. And then we've got the long-term effects. And the trauma that you've just talked about seems to be like from a long-term effect, or on the long-term effect side, because, you know, they are carrying this trauma right from when they were still with their parents into their own relationships, into their own marriage. They just, you know, can't seem to get over it. So apart from that, you know, what are some of the long-term effects of this, you know, separation on our children, or short-term, if you could be able to separate the short-term and the long-term?
Okay, now, divorce affects children highly the first year. The first year, that is when they start now feeling the emptiness and everything. But later, they get used to the situation. But remember, this divorce that comes, or this separation, it comes with a package. For example, the father has been providing. So it means that these people must adjust to a new neighborhood where the mother can be able to pay, or to new families. For example, if she has been in the countryside, maybe she may decide to go to towns and look for jobs. Or if she has been in town, she might decide to relocate in the village, you know, where she cannot be able to be highly damaged or abandoned. But even this relocating, it also has effect on children, because now it will force children to start they'll start adjusting to new environment. It is a transitional issue. And so as they start adjusting to the new environment, remember, they are starting new friendships. And these new friendships might not be like the ones they had before. So the new friendships will come with a lot of things like teasing. You come from the city, now you're in the village, umekuja kukula githeri, sisi huku tunakulanga githeri. You know, it is really torture for children. And so this one, they will carry throughout. They will carry ones that they was said by people, by the neighborhood. Maybe the place that they've gone to is a place that did not meet the standards they had previously. And so they are trying to adjust, maybe with food, maybe with environment, maybe there's no water. So those are the long-term effects. And you realize that by the time they turn teenage, they've developed something we call doubts. So every time you tell them something, they wonder. And that is where low self-esteem sets in. Yes, because now they are not very sure. If we couldn't trust our parents, who else? So this is in a nutshell, this is the question they ask. If our parents or 4 other people could not be trusted with us, who else can we trust? And so that is where the problem sets in. And it is a long time until it is handled well. Then you notice that these children they don't know how to take care of themselves. Because one, they lack value, the feeling of worthiness, the feeling of as a worthy person, they lack this. And that is why mostly you see them in drugs. Because now this body, what is it? What is there? What's the importance of this body? So if they are indulging in drugs, you notice that they take the hard drugs, and it is very hard to get them out. And then lastly, there's the suicidal. Yes, when they are taking suicide, mostly if you read their letters, you realize that it was their last thing to do, and they needed to do it. If you sit down with a suicidal person whose parents have divorced, you hear them convincing you that death is the easiest thing for them to do because of that separation and divorce. And I keep on telling parents, partners, kindly, if you feel that you can't live together, look for someone to help you instead of taking children through this issue. If we look at the country today, a research that was done by National Bureau of I think it was done by the National Bureau. They said that the divorce today is higher than it was before. Why? Because parents are separating very easy, and they are leaving their children unattended. And the children that are left unattended are teenagers. So these teenagers are the ones that are looking for comfort and friendship again, and they end up becoming young parents again. And you see now, there's a cycle that is forming in the country. That is why I'm saying, if possible, let us talk about this thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, it's such a difficult conversation for a lot of parents.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, you know, when parents decide, you know, it's over, let's go our separate ways, do they really, really feel the importance of having to take care of their children? Because as you've said, if there's the statistics in place that show parents are just divorcing, yes, but they're not working towards their children. So, you know, what needs to be done better when it comes to parents and the counseling they need to be given? Because majority of times we can be so much overtaken by the emotions at that particular point, and we focus so much on us. I want to be better. I want to move on.
Yes.
You know, I want to be free of my partner,
Yes.
but we forget about the children. So what can be done better to also tell parents, yes, you're going through emotional problem, but you know, you're the bigger person. Look at your child as well.
I always say that if you feel that you are going through a difficult time, stretch out for help. It gets better with people. You know, today we've labeled partner, unity, friendships. We've labeled them in a band way that do not tell people what you're going through, do not share what you're going through with your friends, do not. But it is better to share rather than die in pain.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is that reach out to people. There are many support groups that are helping people who have issues in marriages. We, the counselors, are visiting those support groups. And we know some situations they are not even able to pay. We are not even looking at the pay. We are looking at the interest of the child. The danger this child will cause in this country. Because as much as Cynthia, we want to say divorce and separation, when people separate and children are suffering, we are the victims. There is no divorce that does not affect the community.
Yeah.
It does affect the community. If children are busy, if children turn to be smugglers, we are the victims in one way or the other. I may give my children everything they need, but emotionally I'm not able to give them. So I bring up children who are full of anger, resentment, and hate, meaning even in the industry they will not perform. So it is a big picture. So when separation or divorce has to take place, kindly involve people. Why? Because sometimes people separate for a while, and again they come back together. And it is okay to disagree in marriages. People disagree in marriages, but again, it is important to know the moment you step in marriage, you've started an institution. An institution that looks at you as the first person. And that is why you see the government stepped and said, apart from the parents, the child belongs to us. Because you see children who are left. So now, the government is part of this system. But you see the government will not come to your house. So it has to be the parents. The parents doing this, the parents joining support groups. And that is why, you know, today we have workshops for marriage. We have seminars in churches, in institutions, in barazas, everywhere we go, we are talking about marriage. Even today, this time, we are reaching out to couples. So that as you grow, remember you have a living thing that is with you. Give them the opportunity to enjoy an institution of a home. Yes.
All right. So you've mentioned something which, you know, brings me to the point of remarrying. You know, this is a couple that separated. One of the partner remarries, but not the same person, goes, you know, obviously gets married to another person. And the child is still, you know, attached to the other parent,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
So, you know, this is a whole now new different situation. It's a new partner. The child will be introduced to a new family, perhaps another mixed family, will meet new other people in the other marriage. But, you know, sometimes they're put in a very awkward situation where they have to now call both of them dad or to call both of them mom. So now what, you know? I'm remarrying. Does that also change, you know, how my child will be able to grow up or will do?
It does. It does change a lot because, one, when a child leaves a certain home, remember there are things that this child was used to. the environment, the families. So it means this child will start blending with another family.
Yeah.
Every family has culture that they have, that they've managed to build. So the moment they leave this culture, it means they go to other family or another home to start learning other cultures. Remember, this child is already a grown-up. For example, if you separate when the child is 3 years old, for you to marry again, maybe the child will be 4 or 5. This is a person that knows, I had a home, that is my father.
Yeah.
And maybe you are separated, you are co-parenting with the father to this child, and you've gone to start another family whereby the child is expected to call that one father 2 and father 1. So this is all complications. It is a complicated matter to the child. So where if you have to separate and start again, there are things that you need to do. You must sit down with your children and tell them what you have decided. Statistics show that 60% of people that marry the second time, they divorce very fast. Because it is very hard to blend. It is very hard to start a new home. You are already used to this partner. So here you are going to adjust again. And as you adjust, you are protecting the interest of your children or your child. And the other one is also protecting the interest of his children. So it is a conflict situation. It is so conflicting to the children. So what I keep on telling parents is that before you adjust to this, think.
Yeah.
Think. If you have to go that way, think.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, it's all about transition, basically, because, a blended family is a bit more complicated, as you've said, because, you're introduced to 2 parents, you're introduced to a different parent, to a new culture, you have to adjust again. So it all falls down to the transition. So if it's unavoidable and, you've thought about it and you say, oh, no, I'm going to get married again or to remarry to a different person, it just can't work out with the other partner. So how do we ensure the transition is smooth? Yes, we'll talk to the child, but aside from that, are there any activities that we need to do to ensure that the transition is smooth for the child as well? Perhaps, go out more with the other parent. What needs to be done to ensure that this transition is smooth so that once they settle in, they can understand, yes, mommy or daddy, had to move to a new family and here we are.
Okay, here, Cynthia, we are not saying that settling again is a bad thing.
Yeah.
It is a good thing if people find people who can match them. We are not saying it's a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
But again, there are some things that people need to do. One, if you're going to remarry again, take your time. Do proper courtship before you go to start another marriage again. Why? Because you don't want to keep on repeating one thing. Even the society itself will give you a name that you're forever married and you're not stable. So do proper courting. In the courtship that you do, talk about the children that are there and the children that will come if you decide to have more children. So talk about the children. Talk about finances. And lastly, if you have to settle there, let it be a formal settlement. Make sure that you settle formally. Why? Because every time we start marriage institutions, we put ourselves there. We put our energy, we put our resources, we put our time there, and the moment you break from it, 10 years later, there's a lot that you've invested there. So when you have to go again separate way, instead of starting again, it will give you somewhere to start from. So make sure that you discuss about your finances and everything. Also discuss about the home environment. Talk about responsibilities. What will this do? What will this not do? How about the children that are coming in the picture? Not forgetting, these children, they have a home that they came from. Is this person willing to see the other father come to say hello to his children, or what will happen? If the person decides that for us to live together, these children must stay with their father, is he willing to see you go see the father, or is she willing to see you go see your children to their mother? Yes. So all these things must be discussed before you settle. And then also don't forget to bring in people that will see these things behold your eye. Sometimes when we fall in love,
we're blinded.
Hey, the blind,
yeah,
the blindness that comes there, it has wings.
Yeah.
So it flies. We can't see anything. So bring another person in the picture who will ask you questions that you are hard to see. You can't see them, but this person should ask you the questions that you can't even ask your spouse. This person should ask you this question, the two of you. Not that you're bringing in a third party to your marriage. No, you're bringing this person to this union, because this union is complicated.
Yeah.
Why lie? It's a complicated union. But this person will come to say something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, as we almost wrap this conversation, I'd love to bring in the aspect of the society now.
Yes.
You cannot avoid to have your children go to a certain school or associate with certain friends who have heard something about your family.
Yes.
And then they'll try to bring it up. Oh, nasikia wazazi wako wana separate. Ama nasikia wazazi wako wana divorce. So, you know, yes, it is okay, I've talked to my child, but how do I ensure that they're also not affected with what the society will say? Because there's this tag, the divorcee, mama yako ni divorcee, or baba yako ni divorcee.
Yes.
So how do we ensure that we also safeguard them and protect them from the harsh society? Yeah.
So, there's one thing I love about David in the Bible. He assured himself every time. He validated himself. He always said, my strength comes from the Lord. This is exactly what we need to do to our children. Validate them, assure them, encourage them. Tell them they are not the reasons why you divorced. Every day, children should know that they are not the main cause. It head to head that way because the friendship is no longer there. Give them an example of themselves if they fight with their friends. What really happens? They are not able to stay together because they are not feeling happy with each other.
Yeah.
So then the other thing, tell them that you value them, you love them, you care for them. Remind them that even their father loves them. Though they will ask you, why did he run away? Remind them their mother loves them. They will ask you, why did she leave us? But remind them, it is the best thing for us to do together.
Yeah.
So assure your children, assurance every day. So that when the world comes to tell them the hurtful ones, these children will say, we know. Yeah, we know. Your mom separated with your father. Yeah, they separated. Mom told us, or dad told us. It is okay. But they are not enemies, you know.
Yeah.
They will be able to fight back because the society must talk. Generally, this is Africa, whereby people are supposed to live together forever and ever. Amen. But now here, there are issues that can't be really managed.
Yeah.
So assure your children, let them grow knowing that there's nothing wrong with them, it had to happen, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so perhaps as we wrap it up, I'll give you the final opportunity to have the final words from all aspects, from, you know, the parents themselves. Yes, we are separating, but also let's not badmouth each other in front of our children. Also, perhaps from the society side, you know, we need to be very compassionate and empathize with such kind of families. And also for the adult children who will walk with that, you know, trauma or the doubts or the negligence for quite a long time. So we can wrap it up as you talk about those three different persons.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
Allow me to talk about the Kenya National Bureau statistics that was done in 2020. It said 17% of marriages that are done today end up in divorce. And this number is rising every day. So that was 2020, there's 2021, 2022, and we're in 2023. Allow me to say this to parents. When we give birth to children, we want them to grow in our homes, and it is our joy to see them growing. However, if divorce comes and it cannot be prevented, and if you have to part ways, put your child in the picture. Tell them what is happening, because they need to know what is happening. Make sure that you create proper structures that your children can go to, maybe to the grandparents, to the aunties, to the uncles, and close friends who understand this journey. For teenagers, it will not be easy. But remember to have people who can understand what your teenage is going through. When they complain and vent, understand them. For the adult children, because they are still your children, remember their home is a safe haven. Tell them what is happening. Allow them to complain, because they will complain, why are you not been there? Why did you wait for the longest time? But allow them to complain, and sometimes they will blame you. Do not pose anger to them. Allow them to say these things. But in all in all, I, as a teacher and a counselor at the same time, I will say, divorce is the last thing to do to your children, to the community, to the family. But if you cannot prevent it, it is okay to go that way. You are better alive than dead. In case you need help, please reach out. My name is Elestuta Makena Wakambuvo. My number is 0720-587673. I'll be very much willing to help.
All right, thank you so much to our guest this morning, Elestuta Makena, professional cancer trainer as well as a psychologist, and she's given her contacts in case, you know, as a couple, this is what you're going through. There's always the need to talk to somebody, because these are our children involved and they are basically the future. We want to raise them in the right way. We want to ensure that their characters remain intact. And yes, even adults, you're still children to your parents, so divorce can also affect you. So we hope that you've learned so much on how to deal with this, how to deal with the whole situation around it. And we hope that you can always seek the professional help that you need to seek. So in case you've missed this interview this morning, you can rewatch this on our Facebook page on EBN TV or on YouTube on EBN TV as well. So thank you so much for your feedback, for keeping us company, for watching. We really do appreciate. Coming up at the top of the hour is Your Faith with Reverend Felix Kavoy. So keep it EBN TV. Thank you and have a wonderful morning.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.